Welcome back to another episode of Femme Forensics. I have a very exciting story for you today. It's been covered on several other channels, but it's a very interesting story as it happened in the city of Knoxville, Tennessee when I lived there. So I didn't know about this case until recently, so I hope this is a new case for you and I give you some new information and hopefully you'll find it interesting like I did. So this story revolves around 16-year-old Emma Walker. She was a cheerleader at Central High School in Knoxville, Tennessee. She cheered for the Bobcats. In the fall of 2014, she was only 14 years old and entering high school when she was the only freshman accepted onto the cheer team. Cheering was her life. She enjoyed it. Her friends were on the team, and it seemed like she had a good future ahead of her. She was planning to be a neonatal intensive care nurse. In her freshman year, she met a new boy named Riley Gall. He was a junior and a wide receiver for the Bobcats, and Emma caught his eye on the sideline, and they started to hang out. They had cute dates like teenagers normally do, going out to get ice cream, seeing movies, and whatnot, but her parents were pretty protective. Riley's friends described him as nerdy and a normal guy who pretty much kept to himself. He was active in his local church, Emma's parents liked him, and he was generally seen as a pretty good guy for Emma by her parents and her friends. He seemed to be a good influence in her life. Emma's friends said that she was really happy with Riley, and the first 2 years of their relationship seemed picture perfect. She was posting pictures on social media of them having adventures around East Tennessee, and generally just enjoying life. So far, these look like two fairly normal East Tennessee teenagers just living their life under the Friday night lights. But, unfortunately, at 16 years old, Emma was found dead, shot in her bedroom. These are the events leading up to and including her death. So Emma's friends and parents eventually grew concerned about Riley's influence in Emma's life. He started to be more restrictive about where she could go and what she could wear, who she could hang out with. He became controlling, possessive, and clingy over her, and generally did not make her very happy anymore. Riley turned aggressive, sending Snapchat messages to Emma, saying things like, "I hate you, I hate everything about you, you're the biggest bitch I've ever come in contact with." Emma's mother was especially concerned when she saw a Snapchat sent to Emma by Riley that said, "You're dead to me, I'll check the obituary, fuck you." Obviously, this is very concerning to Emma's mother, as things were only escalating at this point. Emma's parents decided to ban Riley from their house, and they took away Emma's phone, but Riley eventually gave her an iPod Touch. How old are iPod Touches? Do Zoomers even know how to use them? Remember when we used to have two devices for music and for our cell phone things, and as our phone? I'm old. I digress. Emma's friend said that for every single nasty message that Riley sent to her, he would send her an apology, and he would use an excuse, and he would say he was angry, etc., as abusive behavior normally goes. He would say things like, "I love you more than words can describe." Ugh. Abusive guys. No thank you. Emma's mom, Jill, said that they advised that she break up with Riley multiple times, but that Emma did not want to listen, and she continued to see Riley against their better wishes. They said that he had a way of isolating her and making her feel like he was the only one. This all brings us to Halloween 2016. Again, I was living approximately 15 minutes away in the dorms doing my undergraduate at this point, had no idea that this was happening in my town. So Halloween 2016, Riley and Emma are still dating under the radar. He had graduated and he started at nearby Maryville College. He was an 18-year-old freshman at the time. and Walker was in her junior year of high school. Emma's parents at this point had grounded her from seeing him and grounded her from everything. She was only allowed to go to cheerleading and to school events. It actually started working pretty well. Emma stopped avoiding seeing the family. She would come out and eat dinner with them. She started socializing with them again. She was talking less and less to Riley and realizing that that was a much better place to be in her life, is somewhere without him. On Friday, November 18th, 2016, Emma was allowed to attend a friend's after party after a football game. Around 11:30 p.m., Emma pulled one of her friends aside and notified him that she had been receiving weird text messages from an unknown number. Her friend Zach said one of the messages said, "Come outside if you don't want to see a loved one get hurt." "Go to your car with your keys," one message said. "Go alone," another said. Then finally, "I've got someone you love. If you don't comply, I will hurt them." Emma thought that this was one of Riley's friends playing a prank on her, albeit not funny at all. Emma was still pretty scared and asked her friend Zach to go outside with her and just check to make sure. She threatened to call the police, and the unknown number responded back saying, "If you like to hear his crying screams, give him a call." Emma and her friend went outside and they found a body lying face down in the ditch. As they got closer, they realized, unfortunately, it was Riley. When they got to him, he was dazed and confused, acting like he didn't know where he was or what was going on, and Emma didn't believe it for a minute. He said he didn't know what was going on, he'd been kidnapped, and he'd been dropped there. The next morning, Emma went home after all these strange happenings at her friend's house. But when she got home, unfortunately, what met her at her house was even more scary. She texted her friends and said that not long after she returned home, a dark figure dressed in dark clothes came and was knocking on her front door. She said she was home alone and someone came to her house dressed all in black and rang the doorbell again and again, and she didn't answer. She texted one of her friends, "I thought I was going to die." And of course she texted Riley. She said, "I hate you, but I need you right now." To which he responded he was on the way and he was speeding. So Emma was supposed to meet up with her mother that morning after she went by the house. And when she didn't meet up with her mother, of course her mother got concerned and came back to the house to find her. When she came home, she found her daughter talking with Riley in the front yard. She confronted him, reminding him that he wasn't allowed to be at their house. He said, "No, I'm here to help. I'm here to make sure that Emma is okay." So her mom responded, "You know you're not allowed to be here," and told him that he needs to leave. And he did leave, thankfully. Freaking creep. By Sunday night, things were pretty much back to normal at the Walker household. Emma was doing homework, her dad took her to Sonic to get some ice cream, and everyone went to bed early and ready to go to school the next morning. At some point in the night, Emma's dad heard two loud sounds. So he went to investigate. He checked on Emma, he checked on her brother, and they both appeared to be lying in bed sleeping perfectly fine, nothing out of the ordinary. This is the South, you hear gunshots all the time and you really don't think much about it. So he checked on the kids and they were fine, so he went back to bed. A little after 6 a.m. on Monday, November 21st, Jill Walker woke up and went to check on the kids. And when she got to Emma, she tried to wake her and pull the covers back. And to her horror, her daughter she had bled out. She was bleeding extensively from her head. She said her daughter's name, she bumped her leg, and finally she pulled back the covers to realize her daughter was dead in a pool of blood. She checked for a pulse and couldn't find it, so she called 911. And that's the story of how Emma Walker's young life was tragically ended. But the story doesn't stop there. There's a lot of interesting evidence in this case, and I want to go over every single piece of credible evidence and attempt to show you guys kind of the process of evidence collecting, and we'll also kind of go over some autopsy information for Emma. So early that morning at school, rumors began to spread like wildfire in the high school that Emma had committed suicide. And that just was not true. When the police arrived on scene, they started working from the outside of the house toward the victim, as is usual in doing crime scene photography. This is typical to minimize evidence tampering and to preserve the scene the most undisturbed as possible. While photographing the outside of the bedroom, they noticed a small circular defect in the siding. This was consistent with a bullet hole. The hole was about shoulder high and about the diameter of an ink pen, the investigators noted. After that, they located 2 shell casings outside the home, so they know that there must have been one more shot fired. They eventually found the second bullet hole around the corner, and it was approximately the same height as the first, and therefore the police felt confident that both of these came from the same gun and the same person. Based on the defect in the siding, the investigators were confident that these projectiles had been fired from outside of the house toward the inside into Emma's bedroom. This shows that this person, if they were intending to kill Emma specifically, they knew where her bedroom was. They knew the corner she slept in. One bullet penetrated Emma's body. It hit her behind the left ear, I would assume in the temporal bone. The other bullet lodged in her pillow. So gunshot wound damage to the brain can happen in a number of ways. So the biggest damage is usually caused by the shock wave that happens, as you can see here. This obviously does a lot of damage to sensitive brain tissue. Also, the heat from the projectile sears and damages the brain tissue in an irreparable way, and even worse, the bullet can transect nerve trunks, or even worse, the spinal cord. I couldn't find Emma's actual autopsy or photos of the autopsy, which is normal for modern cases and completely understandable for the victim and the family's privacy. So obviously I can't say much as to the trajectory or the damage that was specific in this case. But it was reported that Emma would have died instantly upon impact. Therefore, we can assume that the bullet penetrated through her skull and did damage internally. So the investigators started talking to Emma's friends, to her family, to pretty much anyone who would talk to them about her and who knew her. And everyone started coming up with the same answer: Riley Gall, the only person who would want to hurt her. Gall was not taking the breakup well. Emma had effectively broken up with Gall a few nights before the party, texting him and telling him that things were over, blocking and unblocking his number multiple times. Gall was not taking the breakup well, but he swallowed a lot of Vicodin, chased it with alcohol in his dorm room in an attempt to commit suicide. Every friend that was talked to noted that he was behaving erratically and having mood swings after the breakup. Potentially most telling, a friend named Walton, one of Riley Gall's friends, told the police that Gall had asked him how to get fingerprints off a gun. He said that he had asked for his roommate, but does anyone actually know? No one believes that? Okay, Walton told him not to ever ask him anything again. And this is not funny, but that would have been my response too. Riley Gall responded, I know, I thought it was weird, but it was for my roommate. Sure, buddy. So the detectives brought Riley Gall in for questioning and asked about his whereabouts the past 72 hours, where he had been and what he had been doing, and essentially trying to establish his alibi. Riley said he thought he had spent Friday night at his friend Walton's house. Riley told detectives he made the drive from Maryville College back to Knoxville to go to his parents to log out of his school account on their computer. And this accounted for his drive in the night Sunday night. And he said once he got back to his dorm, he sat in his car and cried for hours. So he's not denying being in the area where Emma Walker was murdered at the time she was murdered. Very suspect. As he was describing all of this in the interrogation room, the detectives described him as emotionless, disconnected, disconcerted. He seemed rehearsed and deliberate in his speech patterns. Riley was interviewed for 2 hours, and during this entire time, he only called Emma by names such as the girl that was killed. She was killed. He never mentioned her by name, which is a fairly common tactic employed by people in this situation who want to distance themselves from the victim for one reason or another. Riley did tell the detectives that he had been trying to talk to Emma over the weekend, but that she kept ignoring him and blocking his calls. Wonder why. Riley claimed that she said if he would help her write her paper, she would talk to him. So Sunday night, he used one of his friend's phones on campus to call her. He said the phone call didn't go very well. She ended up blocking that number. So Riley's other friend, McCarty, had told detectives that Riley had shown him his grandfather's gun. Riley's grandfather kept the gun in his car and had reported the 9mm Glock pistol missing. Detectives asked Riley about the gun, but he said he didn't know where it was, and he didn't have anything to do with its disappearance. He denied showing it to his friend McCarty or asking his friend Walton about how to get fingerprints off a gun. Detectives asked Riley if they could see his phone, to which he asked, "Am I a suspect?" And of course they said, "Well, should you be?" But Riley continued to deny having anything to do with Walker's death. When Riley left the sheriff's office, he started texting his friend McCarty, asking why he had told the police about the gun. He texted his friends asking them not to work with the police anymore and not to tell them anything. Walton described Riley as nervous and unhinged during this time. So his friends Walton and McCarty decided to work with the police to potentially trap him and get him to confess or give evidence that he murdered Emma Walker. So Tuesday night, only a day after Emma's murder, Riley Gall's friends were mic'd up and set up with a camera key fob in order to trap their friend in an attempt to get rid of the murder weapon. They were trying to tie him to the crime with physical evidence. The detectives went over all of the risks that these guys would be undertaking, and they still agreed to go through with the operation. Riley recruited his friends to help him get rid of the gun, and he didn't know that they were already talking to police. He claimed that he thought that he was going to be charged with Emma's murder, though he was innocent, or so he said, and that's why he needed to get rid of the gun. Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense. So the boys went by Riley's stepfather's house and retrieved a small plastic bag with what appeared to be black clothing and what was assumed to be a handgun, though Riley wasn't very adamant about pulling it out to show it to his friends. They parked near an apartment complex close to the University of Tennessee, and Riley planned to throw the evidence into the Tennessee River. When they parked there, they were quickly met with police who told them to get out of the car, hands up, etc., etc. And Riley was arrested then for the murder of Emma Walker. Police recovered the 9mm Glock and what they believed to be a treasure trove of evidence, including the black clothes that they suspect could be from the mysterious black-clothed man that came to Emma's house on Saturday morning. Now, let's talk about what happened to Riley after he was arrested. In May 2018, when Riley was 20, a Knox County jury found Riley guilty of first-degree murder, stalking, recklessness, endangerment, theft, tampering with evidence, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a dangerous crime. Although Tennessee requires a mandatory life sentence for first-degree murder, his sentence does allow for the possibility of parole in 51 years when Riley is 71. Riley and his attorney never tried to deny that he shot Emma, but they did try to claim that he was only shooting to make himself look like a hero and bring Emma running back into his arms. The attorney said he never intended to cause her harm or never intended to cause her death. And no one believes that. He said in court, "I'm sorry I took Emma away from you," meaning the family, and that not a day goes by that he doesn't think about her or what he did. Prosecutors said that these words were insincere because jailhouse phone calls reveal that he'd been practicing his apology ahead of time. So that's the unfortunate story of Emma Walker, and she has since had a neonatal intensive care unit named after her in her honor, so she is able to make the impact after death that she was hoping to make when her life was so tragically cut short. Riley Gall is still in jail and will be until he is at least 71 for her murder. Put down in the comments what you think about this case, any comments that you have. Do you think the sentence was fair for Riley? Do you think that he did it in cold blood? Do you think that he did it just to try and scare her? Let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Thanks! Emma's, you're the biggest I've ever come in contact with. Is typical with causes of death. Yeah, whatever. Therefore we can assume that there was. Therefore we can assume that the bullet likely penetrated through. Who did it? Told the police. So the boys went by. The judicial